Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans and the weekend rotation fans. Today, it's a kind of different show here. It's just me and Noah for now. Some people have had some technical difficulties, but Noah and I are here to break down the games from Friday and Thursday night. How you doing, Noah?
Living the dream over here. Just I said let's get the A+ crew in here, and they were able to dial it up. I popped Alex's tire, so he's stuck in the middle of nowhere right now. Jake is off, go supporting Texas athletics. It's a great day to be great.
Jake's got a shopping cart full of new gear, so we'll be seeing stuff for the next 4 weeks. It'll be outstanding, but it's a great day to be great. You're absolutely right. Another great thing here is our host and our fun partnership with Home Field Apparel. CBC 15. Use that code, get 15% off your whole order. They just dropped a whole new line of stuff from new teams this week. It's outstanding gear. If you have not bought Home Field Apparel gear, get on your computer, get on the app, figure it out. CBC 15, go buy that gear. If you're not supporting your team, somebody else is. So get out there and go buy that gear, man. It's great stuff. Let's go into the Friday night games, man. I mean, we had some stuff. Let's start with one that was the Thursday series. LSU drops the second game to Kentucky, so they're split 1-1. Is this more about Kentucky or LSU here, Noah?
It's hard to say. I think LSU is people are starting to chip at those cracks that they've been showing, and I think it's Mike Rooney said it on our show with Alex earlier in the week. You find ways to chip away at the number one team, whereas you find ways to kind of bump up the teams below them. It's just kind of the hater in all of us. And you look at LSU, you see those cracks, but they're still the number one team, so we're kind of looking for a way to knock them down. And Kentucky was explosive last night, but they were so quiet the night before. A lot of people are upset about that Thursday night decision to start a guy who's never thrown before, never started a game. And we'll see if it costs them the series, because today they have a chance to take a series at LSU, which not a lot of teams are going to be able to say that.
Yeah, I don't think that they've done that since 1970-something, so we'll see what happens here, Kentucky at LSU. I am shocked, though. I really was surprised to see Kentucky bounce back that well. LSU, they got a few issues. The sneaky errors snuck up on them again last night. They hadn't had those fielding errors all season. Hopefully it's not a trend of things to come here. LSU still the number one team in the nation, but that could change over the weekend. We're going to talk more about that here as we go into more of these games here. Miami beating North Carolina on Thursday, and then they're 7-7 in a rain delay now. Miami is not a bad team. UNC is supposed to be better. I just don't understand this series at all. This is just so hard to pick these ACC series right now.
That's the ACC for you. It's a total coin flip every single time these teams take the field. Miami was ranked for so long. They hung around. They finally fell out, kind of like Plinko going down the board. Boop, 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 boop. And now they're finally out. And now they're saying, hey, we want to be a top 25 team again. Very puzzling. That's just the way that conference is. You know what I think of Miami. But I had this series circled in November. So I'm glad to see that it's at least semi living up to the hype. We'll see if North Carolina can kind of take an 8-7 lead.
Yeah, and I know that we picked this series when we were talking about doing big ACC series, and this is a prove me series for North Carolina. If they drop this series and Miami wins, it puts Miami probably closer back to the top 25, and it knocks UNC down to the bottom, maybe bottom 20 to 25. I just don't understand this USC, and the whole ACC this year has just been a little different, except for Wake. Wake's the only team that's really been solid there. A&M finally playing up to their potential and beating up on a Mizzou team who's kind of been down. They're up 2-0 in the series. Is this just, A&M finally getting back to baseball, getting back to the basics of hitting the ball around the yard?
It's hard to say so far because it's Missouri, but they've won 3 series in a row now, so good for the Aggies. People are so afraid to trust this Texas A&M team. There were some A&M fans saying, we should have been ranked last week, and they'll probably still be saying it again this week, but I'd like to see them play a better team than Missouri. Missouri reminds me so much of an ACC team, which is really where they belong anyway, or the Big 12, not the SEC.
Or Big 12.
But
that'd be awesome in the Big 12. Let's be real. That'd be a great Big 12 team edition, but we'll continue.
But yeah, just another one where we see A&M slowly building up our trust, only to hurt us again probably in the next few weeks.
I know I personally have them on my 16th in the polls, and people were shocked that I have them that high. I just think that they have the talent to be a top 16 team, and they have really shown it the last few weeks here, finally winning some series in the SEC. We'll see, though. They just had such a tough start. That's an impossible start for any team with the 3 series they had to begin SEC play. But we're going to see what they do for the next 3 series here. Big for them to be out there and just go beating up on a team finally that they just needed to score some runs. So good to see A&M finally playing ball again. A team that just continues to roll, especially in weekend series, not necessarily weekday series, which is crazy. Wake Forest beats Louisville 11-5, and that's a good Louisville team going out there and just smacking the ball around. Wake is just they're good on all facets. Do we see any more weaknesses, or are they the next team we start picking apart after LSU drops?
It's well said, Mark. I think they are the next team that we start to pick apart. But right now, we just enjoy watching them because they're not number one. But there's a chance that they are that number one team on Monday, and at that point, we say, "Yeah, these guys kind of suck too." But we're really watching them, loving watching them play right now. They just exploded against Louisville. There, it was they used small ball a little bit to set up the big fly, and then they hit 3 homers in a row. So you kind of never know what you're going to get with this team, and that's what makes them so great.
This team can play. That's what it is. Wake Forest can play baseball. They have pitching. They have high front-end bullpen. They have great guys, and they have great arms. And they bang the ball around the yard, whether they're hitting home runs or they're just hitting little gap shots. I love this Wake Forest team. They've been playing terrific ball. Nothing against Louisville here. That's just a very good Wake Forest team, and they're tough to beat right now. I would like to see Louisville take one game in this series. I think that Louisville's good enough to do that. But this is all about Wake right now moving forward. And if they sweep, they're probably going to be the number one team for me on Monday. Georgia comes out and decides that they're finally going to play baseball this year, and they go beat Florida at Florida 13-11. Kind of a weird day, especially with Florida's pitching been so good, giving up 13 runs to a Georgia team who's been anemic.
Yep. Sproat was so good for Florida. He had everything working. There were a lot of cool videos. Pitch Ninja will be sure to pick him up. But the bullpen just completely fell apart for Florida. And that's something we saw earlier in the year against Miami. They blew it big time right at the end of the game, and they did it again last night. Georgia just showed a little bit of that guts. They won that series last week against Kentucky, and now they got a chance to take it against Florida this week. But I think Florida might be getting a little bit too close to the sun where they're thinking we might have a chance of being the number one team. Are we ready for that? And it might be getting to their clubhouse just a little bit.
Yeah, for a top 8 team that we're all talking about, a lot of people have them in the top 4. Their bullpen kind of scares me every week. Same as like Vandy, that bullpen's just not where we want it to be. And, speaking on that side, Vandy loses 14-6 to South Carolina. A lot of bullpen issues again. So SEC bullpen is not as strong as we thought it would be, except for teams like South Carolina who are really playing well. Is this a big push for South Carolina to maybe be ranked number 1, or are they going to be able to jump Wake and Florida this week if they sweep Vandy?
I think it's going to be tough to beat to surpass Wake Forest, but they're going to have a chance to be up there as a top 2 or 3 team after this week, especially if they sweep Vandy. It's really going to depend what LSU does against Kentucky. I think there's that opportunity for them to pass, and then you really need Wake to maybe lose a game for them to truly be in that number 1 discussion. But we all know that I'm big on the Cox. Took care of that in November, and we're just riding the train right now. So I'm excited for South Carolina baseball. You don't want to peak too early, and I'm worried they might be doing that.
Yeah, I know that I had them outside my top 25 to start, and people thought I was crazy. I am crazy, okay? Let's be real. This South Carolina team's good. My voting there was more of a punch at AJ Sessions, and now I just can't keep them out. This is a good South Carolina team. I had them 4th in my latest poll, and I believe that they could jump to number 1 if Wake loses a game to Louisville. No matter what LSU does, even if LSU crushes Kentucky today, I think that South Carolina could jump them, seeing as South Carolina split with them already. West Virginia goes down and beats Oklahoma State 6-3. I can't figure out the Big 12 either. That's another coin flip conference there. Is this big for West Virginia, after losing last weekend's series?
It is. They're ranked by D1 baseball right now, and I can't see it with this West Virginia team, but I did pick them to win this series because I don't see it with Oklahoma State either. I think that the Big 12, kind of like you said, is so weird and so ACC light almost that you can't predict it at all. And somebody's going to win this conference. They're going to be a top 16 seed. And then there are going to be a lot of teams that we don't really know about as like 2 seeds and maybe some fringe 3s in there. And they're going to create some havoc, kind of like in Oklahoma last year where, whoa, where do these guys come from? But this conference is just so weird.
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it. And like I said last week, and a lot of people made memes of me saying the disappointed dad face for Oklahoma State. I don't understand. I just can't figure out where this offense just disappears to sometimes. They just play Houdini, and they show up whenever they feel like it. They're going to go score 15, and then they're going to score 3 against West Virginia at home. I don't understand. I need more consistency from Oklahoma State. I do love their effort, and I love their team, but I just can't figure out this just lack of offense sometimes. It just disappears. Yep. Another team who kind of surprised me yesterday, Virginia losing to Pitt. I did not see that happening. Virginia at home, is this, looking forward, trying to look at these next series that they got coming up against big ACC opponents that kind of look past Pitt?
Well, it was a 23-game home winning streak for Virginia, so I think that they kind of wanted to snap that before it got too long and and too much pressure mounted. So it was a good coaching move to lose on purpose. But yeah, just one of those things where that's life in the ACC. Pitt is just not up to the par of some of those good ACC teams, but you'll slip and fall. We'll really see what happens when Virginia takes the field today and on Sunday, because we remember last year Virginia was in a very similar position that they are right now. And then they just completely collapsed, and they ended up being a 2 or a 3 seed. And it was one of those things where we look at the talent on the roster and say, these guys can play in Omaha, but they just aren't clicking right now, but they were a month ago. We'll see if they can avoid that this year.
The fact that they just didn't score runs last night has me worried. Because even when they lost the series to Virginia Tech, they scored. They just couldn't stop Virginia Tech from scoring. So I was a little concerned about the offense last night, but I think they get rolling again. I don't think this is a cause for concern. Overall, I still believe Virginia is the top 16 seed right now easily. They just need to continue rolling and keep winning series down the road here. A team that I do not like, and I think far and away highly overrated, is another ACC team. Boston College loses at home to Duke. This is unforgivable for me as a thought process. I haven't had Boston College ranked at all this year. Some people have them ranked as high as 10 and 11. I don't understand this, Noah.
They're trendy. We got a part of that Jake bug that he got us on last year where he was right about Virginia Tech. And now we're all trying to kind of say, oh, yeah, well, Jake's a genius, which is obviously a mistake if you ever say that out loud. So there's a lot of pressure on that Boston College team to kind of keep up with their new expectations they might have. And we see them, they lose that series to Louisville, and now they're starting to crack just a little bit. It happened to Virginia Tech, but it took them a year to fall apart. We're seeing it right now. Boston College just a little bit quicker. That's life. You gotta adapt to when you start to become a little bit too good.
Yeah, I've never seen the love for this team. I love Travis Honeyman, but that's about it. There's nothing else on that team that I love. So we'll see moving forward here. I just don't think that Boston College is a top 25 team, in my opinion. A team that definitely is a top 25 team and is battling to be a top 8 team. East Carolina beats Cincy 9-4. This is good for East Carolina to keep building momentum, right?
Yeah, but you have to be careful with this ECU team because that AAC is just subpar, and you have to be careful with every series win that they rack up. I'm a little concerned when they go and lose midweeks that they should win, like Campbell. That's a good opponent, but those are the ones that you have to kind of tidy up to lock in maybe a top 8 seed down the road. ECU everything has to align perfectly for this team to get to Omaha. We know that 23 regional appearances, and they haven't made it to Omaha. Everybody knows that. This year, something's got to click, and it's not quite clicking yet, but you can see that there's going to be that potential. Like we said with South Carolina, you don't want to peak too early. They're definitely not peaking too early.
Yeah, and we thought we had them in last year with that Texas series, and then after the rain delay, Texas catches fire, and that was it. It was all Texas the rest of the weekend, unfortunately. Looking forward, though, we'd love to see East Carolina and Omaha. Let's be real. That'd be just great. Pirate Nation down there would be outstanding. Another team, like we talked about, another mid-major, Campbell, 13-1 over Longwood. Big for Campbell. They got to keep winning. They have a sneaky chance of sneaking into the top 8 if they can continue to win, these series going on forward. I like this Campbell team, even missing Zach Neto, who got drafted so high last year. I think that this team is still very good. What do you like on this Campbell team?
They hit the ball. They can pitch the ball. But again, quality of opponent has to be under just a little bit. But they're high up in the rankings everywhere. People have earned or have given the respect to Campbell that they've earned over the years. They're a great program, NCAA tournament mainstay. They have a good chance of going to a super regional last year if they don't run into Tennessee, who was a gauntlet in regional play, of course. We'll see. I thought that Neto would fall apart. No Neto would make them fall apart just a little bit, but they are arguably better than they were last year. I'm a big fan of the Camels, but I want to see them play a big dog, which we may not get until the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I really like that in baseball this year. It feels like the voting polls from everybody, ours especially, and a lot of other polls, they don't care if you're a mid-major. They want to see if you're a good baseball team. They're not really voting on who you're beating up or who you're playing week to week. They want to see if you're a good baseball team. So I'm happy to see Campbell and East Carolina getting the love and getting pushed up in the polls here. Another couple teams here. Let's go through. Florida Gulf Coast loses to Eastern Kentucky. This has got to be a big blow for Florida Gulf Coast, right?
To a degree, certainly, but EKU kind of played the perfect game. I believe they hit like 5 homers or something crazy. Yeah. We'll see if they can rebound to win the series. FGCU, huge benefit of those kind of lower tier, top 25 teams just kind of not really living up to the bill, and they've drifted up arguably a little bit too high. They might host right now if the season ended based strictly on top 25 rankings, but I think they'll drift a little bit back to where they belong. Very, very good team, but they have benefited a lot from teams like Missouri falling apart.
Yeah, they're like a 21 through 30 in my book right now. Like, they're a good team, but they are not a top 16 team. Speaking of other team, it's not a top 16 team. Coastal Carolina loses to Old Dominion. Old Dominion is not a bad baseball team. Well, this is a good baseball team, so that's not a bad loss there. Coastal Carolina, though, needs to win some series. Is this just a bounce back? Maybe they get the next two here?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be fine, but Coastal's one of those teams where they're a little bit highly ranked too. They stumbled earlier in the year, and now they're getting hot a little bit, and they rose up as high as, I think, low teens in some polls. So we'll see if they can humble themselves a little bit. ODU, not a bad baseball team at all, though.
Again, Coastal is one of those teams that's 21 to 30 in my mind there. I just don't see them going in the top 16 here down the season stretch. A team that I really can't figure out, TCU gets crushed at home by UNC Wilmington. I don't understand what this TCU team's doing. They're all over the board, Noah.
Yeah, they got some injuries going on, which is obviously a little bit of a crutch, but that's something you have to adapt to when you're going to be a top 16, top 20 team. TCU has the talent. I know that we, in the preseason when their schedule came out, and we said, yeah, this is going to be a schedule where they're going to be a little bit rough and tumble, but then they're going to be really good in RPI, and all of a sudden they're going to come out and be better for it. But not this series. This was not one of those where you say that. Maybe Florida State, okay, but not this one. So at some point we do have to press the panic button just a little bit with TCU, but at the same time, when we have teams like Oklahoma State losing to West Virginia, eventually those losses are going to hurt them too. So you never know in this Big 12.
Yeah, it is a question mark. And like Texas goes and beats Baylor last night too, 11-9, a game that Texas should blow out, and they're barely winning. But I mean, it's still a win. Every win counts in the Big 12. So Texas beating Baylor, that's big for Texas, right? Keeping them on the winning train after losing last weekend.
It is big, but you hate to give up 9 runs when Lucas Gordon is on the mound. I know Jake tweeted that Gordo is just a cheat code for Texas against Baylor, but then you shouldn't be winning 11-9. You should be winning 11-1 or 2.
Yeah, agreed. Texas Tech goes out and beats Oklahoma 13-7 in extra innings, by the way. So they scored 6 runs in the 10th inning. Texas Tech is a better ball club than Oklahoma. This is not surprising to us. The fact that it is surprising is that it keeps taking Texas Tech extra innings to beat these teams, right?
Oh yeah, it's that's the Texas Tech way, is that they're going to out hit you, and maybe they have one good pitcher that'll save their season just a little bit. And really good timing here. Welcome, Jake. I was just about to give Jake some credit for Gavin Cash hitting a grand slam for Texas Tech. He was on Cash pretty early. Gavin's looking like maybe the next Jace or Josh Young. Does anybody really know how to pronounce that last name?
Jace Young. Yeah, there's some good teams there. So what do we got some new gear here, Jake?
Yeah, I was at the no baseball stuff, unfortunately, so I got some good Nike UT stuff because I just love the University of Texas athletics so much. I got to get ready for their Omaha trip, so got to get some new stuff to wear to Omaha.
So, Jake, when you're watching the beginning of Moneyball, I know it's a movie that you have just a ton of respect for, and Billy Beane is driving through the town, and he's listening to the radio shows talking about how the A's are like a farm team for the Yankees. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound exactly like that radio show right now.
Yeah, your audio is not great. It's pretty hilarious at the moment, but that's okay. Are you going through the car?
Yes, I am still in the car.
Now it's clear.
I'm doing the mark where I have the phone going with the side angle. So
yeah,
Jake,
sometimes you just gotta post up.
It looks like the middle of the night where you're at. It looks like you are calling in at like midnight. I'm in a very in the morning.
Parking lot, I will say. It looks like where they go to like shoot people in mob movies.
or that's where you go to buy Texas University gear.
yeah, bootleg Texas gear.
It's at least where they sell it. Anyway, Arkansas beating Tennessee 5-2. Noah, this is big for Arkansas to go out there and beat a team like Tennessee, right?
Yeah, it was. And that's one series that we've kind of been waiting on for 2 or 3 years now, ever since that scuffle in Knoxville a couple years back. And then they met in the SEC championship where Arkansas won with their juggernaut 2021 team. And now they're finally playing again. We'll see if there's a fight this weekend. It looks like things have cooled down. Dave Van Horn was seen like joking about the scuffle with Tony V, and I don't think Tony wants to damage his image too much this year because he's been kind of a good boy this year with his little bit of a struggling team, but still top 25. So good win for Arkansas. Picture perfect night in Fayetteville last night. All the winter jackets are off, so everybody's wearing their red. Looks very nice.
Yeah, I'm concerned about this Tennessee team. I just don't understand where they're coming from, where they're going. It's frustrating because I don't see a life in this team. I would like to see a fight. I'd like to see Tennessee get in a fight right now and see if they can have any sort of life for baseball. It's just not there right now. It's really driving me nuts to look at. But anyway, Oregon State beating USC 10-4. Jake, USC's ranked for the first time since like 2021 in a lot of polls. Is this big for Oregon State to kind of get back on the right things?
I would say it is because they're a young team and they kind of need wins like this to kind of get the ball rolling because it seems like everybody and their sister has just been on how bad Oregon State has been. And they beat a talented USC team and still kind of a surprise USC team. So I think the big storyline with this one is, do we see the fall like with Boston College with this USC team kind of with their first taste of adversity, or do they still kind of roll through it? Because, again, they've been playing just about lights out and perfect this past few weeks.
Yeah, USC has won all 4 series this year that they've played in the Pac-12. Oregon State's won their last 3 series ever since the loss to Stanford. So moving the right direction. It's good to see that Oregon State is punching back a little bit and being one of those, true blue bloods in the Pac-12. USC, good to see them playing good baseball, though. They have good baseball players. That's a very young USC team also. So moving forward, they have a lot of good parts moving forward. Oregon shuts out Stanford. Noah, did we ever think Stanford would be shut out this whole year? Now it's happened multiple times.
Yeah, you don't expect it when you have Braden Montgomery and some of those other bats, Drew Bowser in the lineup. I don't know. This Stanford team is so weird. They should be in the Big 12 too because they went and beat Oklahoma the other day by 1 million, and then the next day I think they got shut out then as well. Maybe they only scored 2. Yeah. So I don't know what is going on with this Stanford team. I was a little bit suspect of them early in the year before the season started, but then they came out rolling and was like, yeah, you know what? This Stanford team, they're really, really good. They're very puzzling. And it doesn't help when they have these kind of weird games and weird series because nobody nationally is actually tuning in to watch them. People just kind of take their word for it. Yeah. If there's any team that needs to be good in the box score, it's Stanford, and they are puzzling in the box score.
Yeah, like when they struggled against Oklahoma, they struggled against Cal State Fullerton, and then they go score 23 runs. You're like, okay, this is the Stanford team we expected. And then they get shut out at Oregon 4-0. I mean, Oregon's a very good team. I believe Oregon's a top 25 team at the moment, but Stanford should not be getting shut out ever with all those bats. Carter Graham, Eddie Park. I mean, they have just talent all over the field. They should never be getting shut out in games. I'm sorry. Another team that did beat up on is, Ole Miss beating Mississippi State. Jake, 3-2 in the rivalry series. Does this matter for anything?
It should, because I think I've been screaming it from the rooftops that Ole Miss has been better than their record has showed the last 2 weeks. They played really good when they came into College Station and then followed that up with a good series against Arkansas. And I don't think anybody had 3-2 on their bingo card for this game. I mean, these are two teams that have horrible back-end bullpens that I thought was going to turn into a shootout. So we're probably leaning towards that today. But I think Ole Miss, this is going to kind of be their coming out party, Like Boston College, usually when the sweaters come off, they usually start playing better, and I think that this is kind of going to be Ole Miss's year where they kind of start playing a little bit better. And again, with the way the SEC West is, I think that they could fall into that 4 range and steal from some of these less tier teams and kind of put themselves into a position to make some damage in a regional.
Yeah, I'm never buying into Ole Miss this year. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. And a 3-2 win does nothing to move my meter at all on this Ole Miss team. They needed to go down there and really beat up Mississippi State if they wanted this to happen this year. I don't see it. Only scoring 3 runs against a Mississippi State team who has been giving up 8 runs a game. That's not good. That's not good enough on your baseball skills right there. Anyway, Washington beating Arizona State. Noah, I know this one hurts you as Arizona State's finally ranked, and then Washington goes out and beats their doors off 8-3. How is this for Arizona State? I mean, they were number 1 in the Pac-12. Now they're dropping down to number 2 there with USC.
Yeah, it makes me sick just a little bit. But we know that this ASU team is kind of overperforming right now, like a Boston College is just a little bit. So it's okay. We're not going to get too beat up about it. Washington, kind of a trendy team. We're okay. Let's go ahead and rebound, take the series. And if we're not going to take this one, let's go out, rebound next weekend, and sweep. That's all we got to say.
I will be down at the series next week and then watch Oregon State at Arizona State for my bachelor party. So I'll see all you Oregon State and Arizona State fans down there. Willie Bloomquist calling you out right now. I'll see you down there live. All right, guys, that's all the games I had picked for this week so far. There was a lot of stuff happening over the weekend, though. There's one thing. Let's get into something cool, okay? Because I would love this segment. This is my favorite segment that we talk about. Jake, I'm going to let you start. What is your something cool for this week?
Oh, he's going to take mine.
Okay.
Go first.
Go ahead, Noah.
Okay, good. We all saw it. It's all over Twitter. John Rice Plumlee going out and leaving the middle of the UCF game to go play in the spring game because he's the quarterback there. He's been in college since like 2014 or so. So it's cool to see him be able to manage those things at such an old age. Really nice to see. He had like this video where he was at the beginning of the baseball game, like, let's go Knights. Then he switched to his football stuff and was like, let's go Knots or whatever they call themselves part-time. Very cool to see. It's a shame that John Rice isn't at Ole Miss anymore. They should probably send him a championship ring just for playing in two sports the whole time.
I love it. That was a cool thing. That was really fun. I'm glad that the programs talked to and they let him do that. They let him go to that spring game there for that fun. So it's pretty cool stuff. But UCF also rolled last night. They were crushing, and he had a big part of that with the 3 RBIs there. Jake, something cool.
There's a lot of like really, really cool things that I saw, so it's really tough to pick one, but I'll go way, way off the deep end. Incarnate Ward leading the Southland Conference, a baseball program with not a ton of tradition. Really, I don't think they've ever made the tournament, and the position that they're in the Southland Conference has them probably looking at a 4 seed in the tournament. So I think the cool thing is when bad teams are really good, I love to see Incarnate Ward kind of being in the mix for a tournament bid.
You do love bad teams. You love Boston College, so you love bad teams. Just saying. Yeah, it's good to see, though, Incarnate Ward, though, getting some love, playing some good baseball. I love to watch teams that have struggled for many, many years and then coming back to life. That's why I love USC coming back to life this year as well. My something cool, Abilene Christian beats Grand Canyon. Awesome. Tanner Tweed hits 3 bombs for ACU to go out and win that game. So that's huge there for Abilene Christian moving forward. Tanner Tweed, 3 home runs. That's a big night for him. I love watching teams like that go out and having a dude hit 3 home runs is pretty cool. Let's talk about the WAC here, though, Jake. Like, what are we looking at? I know that this conference is all over the board. We've got multiple teams in there that are good. Grand Canyon's kind of fallen off, and they've been the class of this conference for a long time. What are we seeing here? Sam Houston leads the conference right now at 12-4, just above Abilene Christian at 9-4.
Yeah, and everybody kind of had Grand Canyon to be back in the tournament after they beat Tennessee early in the season. And I think the 3 teams that are the class of it are Abilene Christian, Sam Houston State, and Grand Canyon. And we've seen that Grand Canyon, not only can they not sweep the bad teams, they're starting to lose series to ACU and Sam Houston. Sam Houston's a really confusing team because every time I think I have them figured out, they go out and lose 15-5 to LSU or 13 to U of H. They play really, really good ball in the WAC, and I think that their pitching depth is very, very thin. So I think that they basically just use everything for the weekends. I know some teams like UTSA like to throw their Friday, Saturday aces to try and get some of these RPI wins. I don't think Sam Houston's concerned with that. The only thing they truly care about is winning the WAC.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you are in the WAC, your job is to win the WAC, right? Like your job is to win the WAC, get into a regional, and try to do damage at that point. I don't understand Sam Houston. They have a lot of good ball players. They're not a bad team, but they need to win series outside the WAC moving forward. Noah, anything to add on this one here? I know I love Abilene Christian. I picked them to win the WAC this year over Grand Canyon, which is a tough choice for me. But Grand Canyon lost their whole coach or some of their coaching staff. There's a whole change there. The culture's changed a little bit. We love Jacob Wilson, but he can't be everything for Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Cal Poly last year, where you just have one player kind of trying to keep it all together for everybody, and it just quite hasn't been there. I know some people have been ranking Grand Canyon pretty high throughout the year in our poll, and I just haven't really seen it with this Grand Canyon team. So it is what it is. I know Jake is kind of our house expert on this conference, so I know that this is his Super Bowl, but
Bill House.
It would be great if Jacob Wilson could kind of carry that team to a little bit of a higher ranking come NCAA tournament time, but you have a feeling that they're just going to be kind of a trendy pick that just won't have the gas.
Yeah, Abilene Christian is 24-9, by the way, so not a bad record. Sam Houston's leading the conference, but they're 20-15. They have 11 losses outside the conference right now. They're 8-11 outside the conference, which is just not good enough, in my opinion, when you're looking at this ball club trying to figure things out. When you look across, when Abilene Christian is 15-5 outside of conference. So Just saying, I don't see it with Sam Houston. I hope that Abilene Christian takes this conference and really can be pushed in. They might even get into a 3 or a 2 or a low-end 2 seed there, depending on how well they play down the stretch here. I want to talk about another conference that has just been really confusing to me. I mean, the Big 12. Can we figure out the Big 12, guys? Do we have any kind of standings on what we're even looking at in the Big 12? Noah, I'm going to let you start because I'm still confused on this Big 12 team, Big 12 conference.
Yep, me too. We were talking about it earlier just a little bit, and I don't trust Oklahoma State. We can't really trust TCU right now. I know that Jake is going to say that it's setting up for Texas to host, but I don't trust them either. They go out there and they have that shaky bullpen performance last night against Baylor of all teams. Texas Tech is all offense, and they can't play away from home. This conference is so weird. Somebody has to win, but a lot of teams, it seem like they had to pick one team right now. I would still pick TCU to kind of come out on top, but who knows with this weird team that Kirk Saarloos has thrown together. They have so much talent, but can they put it together at the right time kind of late here?
Yeah, Texas is 7-3. They lead the conference. TCU is 7-5. West Virginia is third at 4-3. Oklahoma State, Kansas State is 7-6. Texas Tech is 5-5, tied with Kansas, and then Baylor is 4-9, and Oklahoma is last place at 3-7. Jake, explain any of this to me.
I think for a conference that is so inconsistent, you have to count on two absolutes. We can count on Lucas Gordon to go out Friday night for Texas and get a quality start. And we can count on OU's bullpen to absolutely blow it for them like they did last night against Texas Tech. No, I already hinted at that, so I won't go into that too deeper. But I think the story of this conference is how bad they seem to play in out-of-conference games. Tech losing one to North Dakota State, TCU losing to Wilmington, Texas getting swept in Arlington. Someone has to win this conference, and I think some of these teams that are in the second tier, like your Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, that they're going to be teams that you want to see in a regional with these ACC and SEC teams just because their records are going to be so buoyed. I mean, we're talking about the Kansas Jayhawks having not only being in the mix, but having a winning streak in the Big 12. And I think that kind of tells you everything you need to know about this conference. They lost Maui Ahuna, and Tennessee fans will probably wish that Kansas had him back, but Kansas is not a team that's loaded with draft-level talent by any stretch.
Yeah, and they finally lost their streak last night, losing to Kansas State, who's now 7-6. But Kansas 5-5 in conference. Nobody picked that. Nobody picked Baylor to be dead last after 10 games in the conference. The only team that is under 500 in the whole conference on their overall record is Baylor. Everybody else is over 500 in the whole conference. So I really just don't understand. There are 6 teams that have 20-plus wins already. So you're talking about there could be 4 or 5 teams going to the tournament, and most of those are going to be 2 and 3 seeds. I just don't understand them. Look out, though.
Losses, though, when you kind of dig into the fat, like Texas having a stretch where they play Manhattan and Mercer. Oklahoma State had a really light stretch. So these are kind of more like if you peel back the layers, a lot of these teams I don't think are very good outside of Texas with the Lucas Gordon start. I think that's really the only team that gives me any kind of stress is him pitching a Friday.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out because I don't love TCU. I thought I loved Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, but I can't figure them out week to week. They're just so randomly good or randomly bad. So anyways, all right, we're going to go into the pick'em here. We had these picked out. Do we have any? Oh, we lost Jake. Do we have any of the picks there for us, except for just you and me there? So the first one we had was Wake at Louisville. I know I took Wake Forest. Who'd you take, Noah?
Yeah, I went with Wake Forest, of course. Just too good of a team.
Too good, too strong. I think that their offense is just so much better than Louisville currently. I think Louisville is a good team. I believe Louisville could have a chance at hosting depending on how they finish out the rest of the season and being a top 16 seed, but Wake Forest is just too powerful. Jake, did you have Wake or Louisville in this series?
I had Louisville. I mean, I've been very, very high on them. I thought the series was at home, and I still kind of like them to come back in these 2 games just because I think eventually Wake will return down to earth because they've just been so unstoppable. And I think if they go out and sweep Louisville, they're going to be my clear number 1, which again in baseball, want to be the true number 1. But I was really impressed with Wake Forest, and it's really hard to kind of keep getting impressed because every time I think that they're at the apex, they go a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, this team, like we were talking about earlier, if they sweep Louisville this weekend, They're the number one team in the nation. I think it's going to be tough. I don't see a way that they don't jump over top of LSU. Noah, do we happen to have Alex's picks or AJ's picks at all?
I don't believe so. Those would all be in Alex's paws.
They're locked in a vault somewhere with their.
Oh, wait. We do have Alex's and AJ's picks. All right.
Oh,
so
all right.
Alex went with Wake Forest.
Okay.
And AJ also Wake Forest.
Pretty standard. I figured that both those guys would be going on the Wake Forest train. So Jake stands alone at Louisville. Yeah. He's going to need to take 2 of the next 2 games and see if he can step back up.
I don't think did it against Virginia, Noah.
What was that?
Virginia Tech did it against Virginia, so we could roll back through again.
True.
ACC.
All right. The next game here we had was South Carolina at Vandy. This one's probably split. Noah, why don't you tell us what those 2 guys who are not on the show today, what they picked for that one?
Well, looks like Jake, or excuse me, I just assumed that Jake is never actually all the way on the show. AJ and Alex both had South Carolina.
South Carolina, pretty. I kind of figured AJ would have to go South Carolina here. I kind of didn't know where Alex was going to go. Jake, who did you take in this series with South Carolina at Vandy?
No, you mind telling me who I took just so I don't get accused of not following rules?
Jake, how do you expect me to have your answers? I don't have your answers.
I believe I picked South Carolina in this one just because coming off.
You don't know the answer?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't have the answer for this one just because I assumed it was South Carolina, but part of me really wanted to take Vandy, and I can't verify it because I'm on my phone and it's in the tweets to Alex. But I really like South Carolina just because I think that they're still riding high from LSU, and again, I think them and Wake are the 2 April champions, and they're going to continue to kind of beat up on these Shirt Tech games. But I did see a lot of Vandy fans tweet that they lose with grace in class. So I guess Vandy fans have that going for them is, they tuck their shirts in when they lose.
I don't think I can make a worse face for what you just said. I don't believe that one bit. Noah, who did you take?
Yeah, I took the Cox. I would take the South Carolina Gamecocks to be just about anybody right now. Not because I believe that they would actually win just for the meme of it all, really, but also because I think they would beat anybody except Wake Forest. Love the Cox. Too good. Ethan Petrie is playing like a 5-year MLB veteran instead of a NCAA freshman.
Yeah, this is just shocking because I really thought that there'd be more of a split on this with how close these teams are supposedly ranked. I took South Carolina as well. I thought that they're just a better team right now. I've been down on Vandy a little bit. I've kept them high in my polls just because they keep producing wins, but they don't have a bullpen, and it kind of showed last night that their bullpen is just not up to the SEC standards right now to be able to get people out. I like South Carolina winning. I think if South Carolina can sweep the rest of the series and Wake Forest drops a game at Louisville, South Carolina could be our number 1 team come Monday. There's a lot of options that could be for the number 1 team come Monday, and they're all playing this weekend. I love what we're seeing from these top 10 matchups this weekend. A not top 10 matchup that's even more confusing than we've already talked about. Noah, West Virginia at Oklahoma State. What did our 2 guys take?
Well, let's see. Looks like AJ took Oklahoma State and Alex took Oklahoma State.
All right. I took Oklahoma State as well. I thought we would see the offense come forward. I thought West Virginia was kind of fraudulent. What do I know? Apparently, I just don't know enough about Big 12 baseball. I don't understand this. Jake, who did you take? Did you take West Virginia?
I did take West Virginia for the simple reason that the Big 12 is so confusing, and they lost 2 of 3 to Kansas last weekend at home. It just kind of made me feel like, this West Virginia team, they don't want to finish 7th. They talked all about that in the fall, and this just seemed like a series where they would go out and defy the odds for no other reason than the Big 12 is weird this year.
They did hate that we picked them 12th in our preview show. They were not happy with us after the end of that show. But I still don't love West Virginia. I still think Oklahoma State's a better team. Noah, I'm assuming you took Oklahoma State with your love for Oklahoma State as well. But who did you take?
Mark, you just assumed wrong. I took West Virginia.
Oh, no.
I've been so low on West Virginia, and normally I do love Oklahoma State. You're right. They're my second favorite athletics department in the Big 12, but I don't trust their baseball team at all. And West Virginia's J.J. Weatherholt is the best player that not a lot of people have seen play. And I don't trust Oklahoma State at all. I want to say that again.
Yeah, this is my disappointed dad face. That Oklahoma State team is just not living up to my expectations. I'm really upset with how they're playing lately. They got to play better. They want to be a Big 12 champion. They want to be a host team. They're none of those things at the moment. They're going to really have to go on a run right now, being already 7-6 in conference. That's just not good enough. Looking at the next series here, we had Georgia Tech at Virginia Tech. Now, for those who are not big ACC fans, this is actually a pretty big series for both these teams to see if they can get back in the mix. Who did our two missed guys take this week?
Well, based on the looks of it here, Alex took Virginia Tech, and it looks like AJ just forgot. So AJ sent Alex the list of games, and then he was like, "Oh, whoops, my bad." And then he sent just the individual picks, and he just didn't pick the Virginia Tech Georgia Tech game. So he picked Georgia Tech.
Okay, I like it. He thought Kevin Parada was still there, so he had to go with the Georgia Tech. Yeah, I took Virginia Tech here. I just thought after the Virginia series, after the way they've been playing lately, I thought that this Virginia Tech team would be bouncing back and getting some offense going. They had a little bit, but both teams scored. 10-7. That's a big team. Jake, who'd you take in this one?
I've been on the Virginia Tech Hokies even since last year, and not really to kind of give up on them. I thought this was more that Georgia Tech is not a very good team, more than Virginia Tech would figure it out. They seem to feast on kind of subpar pitching, and this is one where I thought Virginia Tech would kind of play like we thought that they were going to play all season, and Friday night it seemed to be the case.
Yeah, they're still having a hard time getting outs, though. Noah?
Yep, I took Virginia Tech in this one just because I think they're the better team. Georgia Tech, not an NCAA tournament team right now, but they can put up a million runs, but Virginia Tech can do that too. Wasn't too worried. VT's got to kind of humble themselves a little bit, and I think they're starting to do that.
Going on to another one that should have a million runs scored because neither team has pitching. Ole Miss at Mississippi State. Who did our two no-shows take this week?
AJ took Mississippi State, and Alex took Mississippi State.
They both took Mississippi State, huh?
Yeah.
Being at home, they took Mississippi State over Ole Miss. That's a tough call. They're both these teams are bottom feeders in the SEC this year. I don't like either one of them. I liked Mississippi State a little bit more, but I did take Ole Miss in this series. I just thought there's too much offense on the Ole Miss team. I was wrong about that. They won 3-2 in the game opener or the series opener. So, but Jake, who did you take for this one?
I took Ole Miss as well, and I've kind of I can do a song and dance and talk about how I'm going to save Ole Miss baseball. But I thought Peyton Chatter or Chatier or whatever his name is, if he hits over 200, I'll learn how to pronounce his name. He's been absolutely abysmal in SEC play, and Ole Miss seems to be in a lot of their games. And I think he's going to be their X factor down the stretch as he kind of figures it out. And then Kemp Alderman with a long shot. He seems to kind of be not yet the level of Tim Elko, but he seems to always kind of be in the mix to get the big hit for Ole Miss.
I hate Ole Miss. I will say that out loud every single episode if I have to. I did pick them though. Here, Noah, I don't know where you went on this one. You've already confused me with your picks this week.
As you should be confused. Before I even say who I picked, I'm going to have to address a few things Jake said there. Number one, enough of the patronizing with the saving Ole Miss deal. Ole Miss has already gotten the life raft. They've been saved. You're welcome. Second, Chatagnier. He's been in college 8 years. Chatagnier, okay? And they have another player named Leger. So if you just think Ole Miss French, you're all the way there, okay? All the way there. I picked Mississippi State because I thought nobody else would, and also because Mississippi State prides themselves on not losing the season series to Ole Miss. Now, of course, that means they could lose this series. Or did they win in Pearl? I don't remember. That's big. That's big for us.
That might be the most useless midweek game. I would rather watch Ole Miss. I'd rather watch like LSU destroy Tulane than watch Mississippi State Ole Miss in a Governor's Cup game.
Okay.
Yeah. This series literally it's the last two national champions. We wanted it to be a good series. I think everybody assumed that this was going to be like an 11-9 game last night. And then it comes out being 3-2 and really boring and awful to watch. Mississippi State had their chances and blew it really in this one. So Ole Miss takes game 1, 3-2. Very unentertaining baseball, much like Ole Miss has been forever. Moving on to the next one, Tennessee at Arkansas. This one is really difficult because this is a Tennessee team that needs to get some wins back and an Arkansas team who's playing very well. I know this is very tough with two top 10 teams in a lot of people's opinions here. What did our two missed teammates say this week?
Before I do that, I do have some breaking news. I have received Jake's picks. Jake picked Vandy to beat South Carolina.
Okay.
Jake did take Vandy.
But as for this one, let's see here. Looks like AJ went with Arkansas and Alex went with, quote, Arky.
Okay, so I took Tennessee. Maybe I'm standing alone on this one. I keep taking Tennessee in these series, and they're costing me lots of my wins. I should be in first place, but Tennessee keeps me out of first place. This is wonderful. I just thought that this would be a time when Tennessee actually fights back. You know, their pitching staff's still good. They held Arkansas to 5 runs. They just only scored 2 themselves, so they're just not hitting the ball. This team is just not living up to any of the expectations that they put on themselves last year. Jake, who did you take in this one?
I took the Hogs just for the sheer fact that I think the fan base was going to be the difference. And it seems to me with this Tennessee team that when they're not in Lindsey Nelson, they kind of become a shell of their former selves. And I think that that's a sign that they really don't have the leadership that they had from Gilbert and Lipsius last year. And I think that that's what they're really missing because they're not getting it from Maui Ahuna or Griffin Merritt or people like that. And in Arkansas, it seems like they always play right around this time, as Noah's hinted at with the sweaters coming off. But again, I think
you said that. I did say winter coats. You said sweaters.
Sweaters. I do think the Hog Pen is a true intimidating atmosphere. I mean, Mississippi State can talk about their attendance records, but no one gives a shit about the game. They're more worried about giving food out when they lose. Whereas Arkansas truly loves to be the home field and the X factor, and I think that was the difference in the game.
Okay, Noah.
Yeah, I picked Arkansas simply because they're at home, and like I always say, the sweaters are off, so they're better looking out there. The sea of red is scary. They're all cooking out there. They're all paying attention to the game. You know, it's one of those places where they don't go out there to just have fun and give food to the winning team. They're there to win the game, and it's setting up for UT to host, really.
Arkansas fans were nice to us down in Omaha, though, so I'm going to have to love on them a little bit. That I do love Arkansas. I just took Tennessee in this one because I just really thought Tennessee is going to have to start winning some of these series if they want to be taken seriously this year. And the pitching is where they got to start, and the pitching was fine. They just couldn't score last night. So I'm really interested to see what happens here Game 2. I'm hoping that Tennessee can make this a series. Arkansas is an outside source, too, possibly if they get the sweep here. They could be looking at a top 3 seed right now also. So it's interesting to see what this Arkansas team is going forward. They're kind of doing things just the DVH way, showing up every day, going to work and doing the right things and winning ball games. So I'm interested to see what happens here with this one. But I'd like to see Tennessee get a little bit of fire. Somebody's got to really spark something because right now they're boring like Oklahoma State, and those are 2 teams that should be firecrackers, and I don't like it. USC at Oregon State. What did our 2 Miss comrades say this time?
Looks like Alex took USC and AJ took Oregon State.
Oh, he couldn't take USC. He couldn't take USC senior since he's USC junior with South Carolina. Good choice there, AJ.
From OSU the third.
Jake, I'm going to let you start with this one. USC, Oregon State.
I really wanted to talk myself into Oregon State, but I thought USC.
All right.
That was me with my mind power shutting Jake down. Noah, which way did you go on this series?
So I'm going to get shut down too. I took the Trojans because I just thought that they were on fire right now. Oregon State did take that series at Oregon, but I don't trust Oregon too much. I did actually have them ranked when Oregon State beat them. I was the only one who had them ranked. But I just thought USC was too hot right now.
Yeah, they had won every series so far in Pac-12 play. This USC team came in, hitting the ball well, pitching well, and last night Oregon State showed up and they started hitting the ball again. So it's good to see. Oh, Jake, you're back. So you took USC?
I did, and I instantly regretted it when I watched the game last night. I thought that USC I honestly had been box score watching with USC, and I thought that they were going to be really good. But I was really kind of happy to see that my Jinx powers got to work on USC, and Mark, it got you that win.
Oh, I was hard on Oregon State last night. There was no doubt in my mind that Oregon State could sweep this series. Now, I love USC. I've been talking USC up all year. I talked them up in the preseason. People thought I was crazy when I said this USC team could be a tournament team. People thought I was insane. Well, they're ranked now for the first time in a long, long time. It's good to see. It's better for Pac-12 and West Coast baseball. Not Pac-12 forever since USC's leaving, but better for West Coast baseball when USC is doing better. So big things moving forward, but I did take Oregon State to win this series, and I think that they could end up sweeping. We'll see today. Jacob Kamat's going out there on the mound for the Beavs. We'll see what happens. All right, boys. Let's get into some questions. Noah, can you please explain North Carolina to me like I'm a layman child? I don't understand how they're so erratic. They have pitching, they have hitting, they have dudes all over the place that are going to be drafted. Why is this team so erratic?
So I'll explain to you like your five, okay? North Carolina has a very good pitching staff. I shouldn't say very good, pretty good pitching staff. Pretty strong lineup. A lot of good stars in there. But they're asking a lot of a young guy named Vance Honeycutt, who he's good, but he hasn't risen to the Golden Spikes candidate that they thought they were going to get from him this year. He's batting around 270 this year, which is not a bad mark by any stretch of the imagination, but they were expecting more 320 from Vance this year. He's been great in the field, leaves a little bit lacking at the plate, but it's not all on him. The offense just kind of hasn't been consistent. Some games they'll score 50, other games they'll be completely thrown off by just okay ACC pitching. But Mark, that's life in the ACC. Every team goes through these struggles in the ACC. It's just something about that DNA of being along that coast over there and being in the center of the country of the Big 12.
Yeah, Horvath is a dude, right? Like he's so good. And then the rest of that team's kind of pedestrian right now at the plate. And, Honeycutt, I kept calling him the Mike Trout of college baseball. I wanted to see more from him this year. I really did think he was going to be a top 3 finalist there in the Golden Spikes, and he has not shown up at the plate yet. I expect more from this UNC team, but they're just so all over the board. They could play like a top 30 team one week, and then they could play like a top 10 team the next week. I just don't understand. It's so tough to pick this one. Another team that I am 100% calling a fraud and have not put them in my polls for a very good reason. People have been very mad. Jake, why do you still love college? Why do people still have Boston College ranked? What is this belief in this Boston College team that came out of nowhere?
I think it's, beanpot magic is what it is. They're wearing, Boston Strong uniforms today. Next couple weeks, they're going to be playing at Fenway. And they always seem to play better with the warm weather. I mean, in the past, they've usually been so far down under 500 that's been the case. So they've never really been able to put it together. And I think it's more that people want to see this Boston College team in the tournament. I mean, it's been 14 years since they've made it. We're going to have to go all the way back to the Bush administration to get political. The last time they played in a tournament game. Everybody that is on that team is probably retired from their 9-to-5 jobs. But I think that's what we really want is we want to see Boston College be good more than they actually are. And I'm not really ready to pump the brakes on them yet, but they're starting to kind of get taken off of my wagon status.
When you say we, who do you mean? Because you're definitely not including me in that scenario. I would like to see Boston College lose out for the rest of the season, but I know some people would like to see them win. I just don't understand it. ACC ball, again, super weird. It's all over the board. It just does not make sense to me. It does not compute for me. All right, guys, I'm going to ask you both a question here. We're going to go a little bit. One other question. We got 2 more questions for you, okay? South Carolina and Florida. Could either one of them, when they win the East, if either one of them wins the East, can they beat LSU in the SEC tournament? Noah?
They absolutely can. They just have to have a huge lead to protect against that bullpen that they seem to have. But Jack Caglianone, great player, does it both ways for him. He's what we wanted Paul Skeens to be, but LSU's protecting him or Paul's protecting himself. We don't really know the story there. But Florida absolutely has – Tony Vitello said it last night, maybe the deepest lineup in the SEC. I don't think that was an attack on LSU. I think it was more just propping up a team that beat his own team. But Florida has the dudes that LSU does.
Yeah, I agree. I think Florida or South Carolina, both of them could. I mean, South Carolina showed that they can beat them, but I want to see Florida in that series. Jake, Florida, South Carolina, you think they could win that series?
100% more because I think LSU's back bullpen has been a little bit shaky and they've kind of caught the injury bug here. And again, LSU does not play good fundamental baseball. And when you kind of get tired and get playing multiple days in a row, like an SEC tournament, you're going to see a lot more of these defensive miscues kind of come to light. And I don't think that they have the back end pitching to kind of cover this. I think Tommy White is a liability in the field, Joe Bear, and there really aren't a ton of options behind them either. Because like every single guy that they have is an even worse defender and an even better bat. So I think that that's going to be the one thing is I don't think LSU's set up for an SEC tournament.
Yeah, I'm confused by this team because I feel LSU is going to end the season at number 1 and then possibly be another curse and not quite get there. But I think that South Carolina and Florida are also 2 very good teams that would be number one on a different year. I don't think that either one of them would be ranked outside of top 5 in any year, and I think they're both very good ball clubs. I believe that both those teams could beat LSU, but I think I still give the edge to LSU in that series if they were talking about a 3-game series. All right, one other question I have, which, we don't go up north very often because we don't love the north necessarily. Big Ten, are there 2 teams or more that can make the tournament? I don't see it. I think this is a one-bid league this year. Jake?
I kind of wanted to talk myself into a 2-bid league because I think we'll see a repeat of what happened last year where Maryland will be so far out in front and be the AQ. And then there's a whole bunch of really decent teams in the second tier, like Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, that I could see beating Maryland on any given night and stealing that bid. And I think Maryland, as a true Southern team, they really don't care about the tournament. They would rather, focus on setting up their pitching for the tournament itself, because I think that they're pretty much a lock unless they fall off the face of the earth to make the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about an Iowa team who's now ranked 11th in the Big Ten. You're talking about a Penn State team who's ranked 12th in the Big Ten. This conference is not good. Right now, it's Nebraska at 5-2, Maryland at 5-2, and then Indiana at 7-3, Michigan State at 6-3. Those are the top 4 teams currently. Noah, is this a 2-bid league or is this a 1-bid league where we're just happy to get somebody out of there?
Yeah, I've been discussing this with a coworker of mine for a while who's a Nebraska fan, but kind of just a casual baseball fan at best, who just kind of like, yep, I see we got Northwestern this week. Yeah, that doesn't really mean anything. But, yeah, we were talking about that, and he was like, if they can string together some wins, they might be looking at the NCAA tournament. No, this is a Maryland conference, and then if anybody wins in the Big Ten tournament, they're going to get in too automatically. But I think it's a 1-bid league, unless, of course, there's some craziness in the premier tournament in Omaha, which is the Big Ten tournament.
So we like Maryland probably to come out of this conference, and then if anybody else wins the Big Ten tournament, that's the team that would be in there. So maybe 2 teams, but really, I think it's a 1-bid league. I really believe that it's a 1-bid league. I think it's Maryland or bust. I don't like anybody else in this conference. I don't think Indiana's up to standards. I don't think Nebraska's up to standards. Michigan State, Michigan, they're just not quite there yet. They have good ball clubs, but they're not quite there. So
yeah. Now, Mark, I will say that I think Iowa has the talent to be an NCAA tournament team, but they just aren't playing like it right now. I love the Iowa ball club. I would maybe even pick them to win a regional. That's how much I like their team.
They are 24-9. They have the offense. They have the pitching. They're playing terrible in Big Ten play right now. They are playing well below their standards currently. They're going to have to pull something off that they really want to get there because they're at 3-5. Indiana RPI is there. I understand what you're saying. They're 23-11. They're 7-3 in conference right now. They're 18-1 at home. Okay, so that's made a big difference for Indiana ball. I want to see them finish out the rest of this conference. I don't think that Indiana is the team that everybody thinks they are right now. I think that they are not a good ball club. They're not a good enough ball club to be in the 64, in my opinion.
One from Texas. They're one of 2 teams to beat Texas at home this season, and they looked really good when I saw them play against Texas. But again, there's a huge talent gap between them and even Iowa.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand here. 18-1 at home, that's great, but they're 4-9 on the road as Indiana. So I want to see more from that. You have to be good on the road when you're a borderline team like that. All right, last thoughts here, Jake.
As AJ has kind of alluded to, I think A&M is returning back to form despite all of the haters. Won 3 SEC series, one of the hotter teams in the country. So it seems like the Texas teams, Texas A&M, Abilene Christian, it's turning into a Texas tournament, it seems like.
Hey, you missed all the positive things I was saying about A&M earlier, and I have them in my top 16 still. I think this A&M ball club is for real. Noah, final thoughts?
I just love when we're sitting here on April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day, and make sure your taxes are paid. But we're sitting here talking about how things are setting up for a Texas tournament on April 15th. It's just incredible when we have A&M going and winning 3 series against a couple high school teams in Missouri. And now we're talking about how, three Texas teams got a pretty much cakewalk to Omaha. Let's all settle down.
Incarnate Word, too.
Keep it together, Jake. The reason it's a Texas tournament is because there are 80 teams in Texas, so you're bound to do pretty well in the NCAA tournament. Let's dial it back. This is still the tournament that we know we're gonna get, and it's not Texas.
It's not Texas.
Isn't quite what you think it is, Jake.
All I'll say is go Beavs. I was really happy to see them. I want to see them win 4 straight series here. Taking one today from UNC would be outstanding. Thanks for joining us again here on the Weekend Rotation. If you have not gone and bought your gear yet, go down to Home Field Apparel. But download the app. Go buy all the stuff. Use code CBC15. Get 15% off your first order, okay? For Noah, Jake, and myself, thanks for joining us again. We'll see you again next Saturday.
Woo pig.
It's all over the board today.